Blog Talk Radio.
Warning, the following program may include profane language, controversial viewpoints, and perspectives on the true nature of reality so far removed from the status quo, they'll make your head spin like a top. Young children, corporate executives, and religious fundamentalists should turn away now.
Hello, my sisters and brothers around planet Earth. I am Tim Bravo, and I thank you for tuning in to Extraordinary Year T-minus 23 days until December 21st, 2012. I've titled tonight's episode, Do Not Be Afraid. Be Not Afraid. And, we've just come from the Thanksgiving holiday, and here we are, smack dab in the heart of the holiday season, gearing up for Christmas, at least in the Western world. And it just seems to me like there are a lot of people who are spending a lot of time being afraid and falling for the old tricks of, fear of the Illuminati. And so tonight, since it is the Christmas season, I'm going to pull out just one little line of scripture. Remember, every time the angels ever appeared in the Bible, what was the first thing that came out of their mouths? Every time.
Do not be afraid.
Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. So, I've noticed a lot of fearful posts lately. It started with Twitter friends, where I have kind of a solid crew of conspiracy friends who I joust back and forth with on the fear thing. But it just seems to be more than ever lately. And it seems to also have spread to Facebook and even to the Extraordinary Year faithful. And I'm not talking about disappointment in progress of 2012 like we've discussed recently on the show. I'm not talking about disappointment with what we thought would have happened by now and hasn't happened. What I'm talking about is fear of the New World Order taking over and their plans for the future and what they have in store for all of us and how they're doing this and they're doing that. And I'm talking about fear of the New World Order, fear of cataclysm, of pole shift, the whole Zeta talk thing. It just seems that people are spending a lot of time and energy focusing on cataclysm or on the Illuminati, the elite, the cabal, the dark ones, and their plans for us all. So tonight, I want to remind you. I want to ask you to remember your power. Remember how powerful a being you are. And then ask yourself, what are you going to do with that power? You got to really believe it. I mean, whether or not you believe it, you're still powerful. So what are you going to do with that power? To what? To whom will you direct that power? Now, when we're talking about the Illuminati, the powers that be, they control the world. They're too big to fail. Well, no. I'm here to tell you they're not too big to fail. In fact, the way I look at it, there are way too few of them for them to succeed. Just think about the power that you have as an equal human being. You're just one-on-one. Just think of how many billions of us there are. Just think of the tide of awakening. There are too few of them to succeed. And the only way they can achieve their goals is with our permission, with our assistance, with your permission, your assistance. So when you concentrate on this dire future, especially if you're feeling afraid while you're doing it, the more you feel afraid, the more you energize that outcome. Your emotions are powerful. They energize your thoughts. Your thoughts become things. Remember, Casey said, mind is the builder, over and over. Thoughts become things. Mind is the builder. And anyone who has studied manifestation and meditation knows that the stronger a feeling you can put behind a thought, the stronger the power towards manifestation. So are you going to help them manifest what they want for you? Because if you're sitting there in fear of it, that's exactly what you're doing. If you're sitting there thinking about it, that's exactly what you're doing. And you have a responsibility to observe your thoughts. We all have a responsibility to observe our thoughts and to redirect them when necessary. So when you're afraid of their plans, you're giving those plans your implicit permission to go ahead and happen. You aid the Illuminati with your fear. You give them assistance. And that's what all this fear porn that's been surrounding us lately is all about. That's why we're seeing it right now, because they are failing, because they are flailing, because it's all they've got. Please, for the love of all that is holy, don't fall into it. Do not be afraid. Cut the cord, cut the power cord, because they're pulling your power. They are creating this future collectively, using every one of us as a battery, as a source of power to make it happen. So cut the cord. There's a big difference. This is the key point that I want to get across to you guys. There's a big difference between waking up to the reality that the Illuminati exist, the reality they've created, the reality that they want to create. There's a big difference between waking up to that reality and feeding it, to feeding that future that they hope to create. So I'm asking you tonight, once again, turn away, please. You know who they are. You know what they've done. You get it. You know what they would like to do. Let that be the end of it. Redirect. Refocus. Focus instead on what we would like to do. You find yourself thinking about that, you find yourself afraid, refocus. Think about what would we like to create? What do we need to get to where we want to be? These are much more constructive thoughts, and they're powerful thoughts. How do we create the critical mass of awareness that we need to get to where we want to be? Not massive awareness of the Illuminati and their plans. Instead, how do we make people aware of the technology that's been kept from us? How do we make people aware of the abundance that could be so easily? How do we make people aware of the truth that has been kept from us? So these are thoughts that you can think instead, if you need some help in redirection. So let's let that be our focus. Let's let that occupy our attention. Not these has-been, elitist, parasitical bastards. Not their plans. Not what they want to have happen. Don't go watching stupid-ass movies like Contagion. I like Matt Damon as much as the next guy, but I'm not watching that stupid-ass movie. And I'm certainly not going to sit there and be afraid of some pandemic. Thoughts create things. And that's not the world that I choose. So, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but if you continue to give them your attention, guys, you're just working for them. And you're working against yourself. You're working against your own future. You're working against the future of your family, your children, the people you love. So,
do not be afraid.
All is one. Separation is a lie. Our global spiritual evolution is coming. It is inevitable. So, if you're out there listening with me right now, I want to ask you, let's do a little exercise together here. Let's breathe in some peace. So I want everybody listening, And if you're listening to this on YouTube and it's the next day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you do it, but you guys who are out there listening with me right now, first I want you to smile. Okay, can you do that for me? Just smile, you know? And now let's breathe. Breathe in that peace. Redirect. Okay. Now, to assist us with this redirection, we had a show that went semi-viral not too far back. You guys might remember the show where we interviewed Daryl Anka, the channel for Bashar. Well, that was a very popular episode. People took clips from that on YouTube and put music to it and some video to it, and it just kind of spread around, and I think that's awesome. So what I've done tonight is I've gone and I found the clip, one of the clips that was taken from that interview, and that interview was about how do we beat the elite. And so as a reminder, I'm going to play a clip. This is going to be Daryl Anka telling us what he thinks Bashar would say when asked these questions. So here's a refresher course. Enjoy.
We spend a lot of time focusing on the powerful few people who run this planet and keep things for themselves, like the T3RB, and work to keep the rest of us slaving away, distracted, dumbed down, blocked from our awareness of our true power, our true nature. We call them the Illuminati, the world order, the dark cabal, the elite, etc. Yeah. What is our best defense against them?
One thing really that people like that are actually able to control is information. And they don't actually have as much power as you might think. But what they've done is they have very cleverly used fear in people and the choice to focus on fear-based conspiracies in people to make it appear as if they actually have more power than they do. And therefore, they control the information that makes them seem so powerful that there's nothing we can do about it. The big secret is they're not as powerful as you think, but they're using every means in their disposal to control information to make themselves seem more powerful than they are. And when people fall into the fear-based conspiracy theories too far, they're actually one of the best assets that those people have, because those people are making them seem more powerful than they are by talking about how afraid they are of what these people are capable of doing, and they don't actually have that kind of power. That's the illusion.
So what do we do?
We focus on the things that are representative of what we prefer. We focus on systems that we prefer. We create the systems that we prefer to replace the systems that we don't. It's not about fighting against those people who are operating on a negative wavelength. It's about understanding that they're operating out of fear, they're operating out of a perspective of lack, that there isn't enough to go around, and we know that's not true. But we have to behave as if we know that's not true. We can't play their game of fear. We can't play their game of there isn't enough. We have to start creating the systems that demonstrate that there is enough. We have to start making the changes politically, socially, economically, whatever area of our lives we want to, that demonstrate what we believe to be true, that there is enough for everyone, that everyone has the ability to be self-empowered, that there will not be anarchy just because people are being allowed to be the individuals they truly are. And we have to start really redefining and reinventing ourselves in a much more positive light. And if we start really taking that to heart and start putting that out there more and more strongly, which is happening slowly, they will simply not be able to survive in that light. Now, eventually, what's also happening is because, again, we're all shifting to different parallel realities billions of times a second. It's not even that we're changing the world when we change, when we think about changing them or changing something in the world. We're not actually changing the world we were in. We're shifting to a new parallel Earth that is simply more representative of the change we've made in ourselves. And eventually, the more we do that, we'll simply occupy parallel versions of Earth that simply don't contain people of an incompatible vibration. And eventually we will no longer experience them. But the longer we choose to succumb to the fear-based ideas that they can control us, the longer we keep shifting into parallel versions of Earth that are simply reflective of the idea that they control everything. So we can shift away from that, but we have to create and generate that state of being for ourselves first, and offer them an opportunity to also understand that they don't have to be fear-based, that there is enough for everyone, and that it's a world that can be created with everyone in it that supports the total whole, and it's not just about the few getting what they need because there's not enough for anyone else. That's simply not a definition of a world that works. So we have to generate and live by the definition of a world that does work, and that will make all the difference.
So we want to choose a world where they're no longer in power over us, where people are in power over people, where they no longer mar our skies with chemtrails, they no longer feed us lies through the media, hide truths that belong to all of us. Many of us, we believe that we've been actively choosing that world.
Yeah, but the thing of it is most people really don't. The only reason that people like that exist is because we're giving them our power. You are your government, and if you are afraid of taking power yourself, and you're afraid of looking within yourself and facing even some of the things that you've compartmentalized in your own consciousness, then you're going to be giving your power away to someone who says they're going to do it for you. And the more you do that, well, this is what you wind up with. You wind up with people who are more than happy to run your life for you. But when you really truly start taking your power back, it makes all the difference in the world. But, they're going to fight against that because we've put them in the position of telling them that we believe we need them to take care of us. But once we start really understanding what it means to be self-responsible, and once we explain and start acting like and giving examples of the reality that there is enough for everyone and start creating systems that reflect that, then they will see that they have no place in that world, and they will either have to choose to change or they will simply have to choose to go away. So it's really up to us, again, to direct whatever our experience of that is. Because if we really truly understand that each of us is our own reality, then there is no one who can do anything to us. We're doing it to ourselves by simply agreeing with what it is they're offering us. So we have to take responsibility back for experiencing whatever it is we're experiencing, because the only way we can experience it is to create it in our own reality.
I walk out the house in the morning, and I look at the sky, and I see a plane laying down a fresh chemtrail across the sky that I didn't want to see. Yes. And I want to see it stop. In that moment.
Okay. Well, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. Why do you need to see it stop?
Oh, well, I guess I would say that I need to see it stop because it's, dumping toxins on my planet that that is killing plants and trees and affecting me.
Okay, and that's not a reality that you prefer, correct?
Oh, definitely correct.
Okay, but it's not about judging that reality as being less than the reality you prefer. Otherwise, that's what anchors you to that reality. Because when consciousness expands, the expansion of consciousness is not about excluding things, it's about including things. So you can come from a neutral position of saying, that is something I do not prefer. At the same time, that doesn't mean that we have to devalue it and dismiss it and negatively judge it, because if we negatively judge it as being less valuable than what it is we prefer, we're actually staying in that negative energy. So it's all about looking at that and going, okay, I can objectively see that there are people that are in this reality that are choosing those things. I prefer not to. So the first step is to understand that since that is not the world I know I prefer, step number one is I know that no matter what it is I see other people doing, it doesn't affect me. It does not affect my world negatively. In fact, the only thing that will happen from anything I see anyone else doing is I'm going to get a positive benefit out of it. Now, the positive benefit might be bringing it to other people's attention that it's not necessarily beneficial for them either, and helping them understand how they may be able to take actions to make certain kinds of changes within themselves to not do those kinds of things. But nevertheless, it's not about falling under the fear that there is a negative effect in your reality, because there is no physical reality other than your definition of it. So when you define something in your reality as negative, you're only going to be able to get a negative effect from it. But if you define it as positive for you, even if you can objectively observe that someone else may be creating it for a negative reason, then you stay in your power, you're not negatively affected, and that gives you the power to go do something positive about that without feeling like you are a victim of it.
You know, it is a conundrum for people who want to see those things change, and we concentrate on an outcome that we want that doesn't include those things, and we still continue to see these things.
Right, but you see, this is exactly what I was talking about in terms of the idea of controlling information, because when a populace is taught to react to those things in a fear-based way, they are doing exactly what those people want them to do. Because when you react to something in a fear-based way, it disempowers you from doing anything about it. When a populace is taught to react to those things in a fear-based way, they are doing exactly what those people want them to do. Because when you react to something in a fear-based way, it disempowers you from doing anything about it.
Well, I hope that the point has been driven home sufficiently now. Do not be afraid. When you do that, you help them. Empower yourself. So, to that end, now that I've gone on that rant for long enough, now the news. Let's move on to stuff that's been going on lately. And I'm going to start with a story that I think is a case in point as far as standing up to the New World Order, the Illuminati, the elite, etc. There is a school in San Antonio, Texas, that has instituted IDs with RFID tags in them. Basically, identity tags where people are marked and have to wear these things on them, keep them on them so that they can be tracked, tracking IDs. Well, there was one student who refused and was threatened with expulsion, and she stood up to the man in this case. And this could be a perfect test case for how to do it on the next level up. Let's remember everything is fractal. So I'm going to read you a bit from this story about how this judge has actually stopped the expulsion of this student who refused. Her name is Andrea Hernandez. She was told she'd be expelled from John Jay High School Science and Engineering Academy in San Antonio starting next week if she insists any further on disobeying a new policy that requires students to wear ID badges equipped with tiny radio frequency identification chips. Now, attorneys with the Rutherford Institute say Hernandez has been granted a temporary restraining order that will prohibit the Northside Independent School District from relocating the student to another facility. Quote, the court's willingness to grant a temporary restraining order is a good first step, but there is still a long way to go, not just in this case, but dealing with the mindset in general that everyone needs to be monitored and controlled, Rutherford Institute President John Whitehead said in a statement. Regimes in the past have always started with the schools, where they develop a compliant citizenry. These student locator programs are ultimately aimed at getting students used to living in a total surveillance state, where there will be no privacy, and wherever you go and whatever you text or email will be watched by the government. Starting in September, students at John Jay and one other area school were asked to wear ID badges that broadcast their location so educators can keep more accurate attendance records and, ideally, be provided with more funding. Hernandez refused to cooperate right off the bat, however, a maneuver that she said landed her in hot water with educators almost immediately. I had a teacher tell me I would not be allowed to vote because I did not have the proper voter ID. I had my old student ID card, which they originally told us would be good for the entire 4 years we were in school. He said I needed the new ID and the chip in order to vote. Can you believe that? Earlier this month, the parents of John Jay students were told that pupils were required to carry the badges and that Hernandez would be expelled starting November 26th if she continues to protest. There is something fundamentally disturbing about this school district's insistence on steamrolling students into complying with programs that have nothing whatsoever to do with academic priorities and everything to do with fattening school coffers, Whitehead said after the school issued their warning. By virtue of the First Amendment, students in our society are at liberty to conscientiously choose which governmental programs they will support and which they will oppose. It's a sad day in America when student officials deny someone an education simply because she stands up for what she believes in. So this is where we are, and I really think this article points out the bigger picture here. The fact that this isn't just about a school district in San Antonio, Texas. This is about a culture. This is about the future. This is about an attempt to get people just used to this sort of thing, and the fact that people aren't having it. And the student isn't the only one not having it in this case. Anonymous seems to have taken this case to heart and have hacked the district website, and they took it down with an email sent to administrators telling them why they did it. So I'm going to guess the website is back up, but the point is this story has gotten out, and Anonymous took it on, and if government continues to try to do these things, we're going to continue to not have any of it. We're going to choose differently. We're going to be in our power. We are powerful. We are sovereign individuals who have the right to choose, and we're going to institute our rights. We're going to demand them, and we're not going to give them up. We're not going to comply just because we were told we have to. We don't have to. And so I think this is a beautiful, beautiful portrait of how things can go instead of how people are afraid things will go. And when you find yourself in a situation like this, guess what? You are that powerful. You are just as gutsy as this high school girl, down deep, even if you don't believe you are. Every one of us has the ability to say no. Nonviolent noncompliance. It works. It worked for Gandhi. It worked for Martin Luther King Jr. It will work for all of us. And we need to be peaceful, and we need to just say no. Stand strong, guys, and people will come to your aid. Okay, also, another story. We know how Prop 37 did not pass in California last month, rather. Oh, I guess it was this month. Back on Election Day. Prop 37 was to require all genetically modified food to be labeled as such in California. It did not pass. Now, why it did not pass is up for debate. There's, of course, the conspiracy theories that it was a rigged election, and maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know that that's something that we can know. But what we can know is that the big farm companies, the big ag companies, the big seed manufacturers, Monsanto, DuPont, etc., all their ilk, poured a lot of money into that election to try to convince people that it was not in their best interest to know what's in their fucking food. Now, whether or not the people voted against their interest, I don't know. But the point is, it didn't pass at the state level. So now, the White House has their nice little petition site where you can start a petition. If you get the necessary number of signatures to a petition within the necessary amount of time, then the White House is required, I guess they have basically promised to acknowledge anything that reaches a threshold within a certain amount of time. Well, there's a petition there to require the FDA to label GMOs across the country. So we didn't get it at the state level, and they say, as California goes, so goes the nation. Well, they didn't get it done in California, so people are thinking outside the box. People are going around the boundaries, finding other ways. And another way we can do this is to force, and this petition has gathered a lot of signatures, and it's like a minuscule amount, like 25,000 petitioners is all it takes for the White House to acknowledge it. And the first time I'd heard about it, it was up to 16,000, and I don't think it had been on there very long. And it had plenty of time to go, like days to go. I'm confident that this will pass, but if you would like to lend your voice to this effort and maybe make it a very loud clarion call that the White House couldn't possibly ignore, then I encourage you to go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/extraordinaryyear, and find that petition and sign it. In fact, if you haven't already signed a White House petition, you should probably just go ahead and go through the process of getting a login there, because you will have to create a login. They have to have your information. But once you've done it, they make it pretty easy to sign in and sign on to one petition or another. And then you can search for pet issues or whatever and sign other petitions. For instance, one of the other petitions that's on there right now is to have the United States actually acknowledge the fact that they got this technology from the Keshe Foundation and to do something with it. And those of us who are all about free energy technology, new energy technology, we would love to see something actually done, because that's the one thing that could really, really change life for the better for so many people. And when you lift up one person, you lift us all. So there are some cases in point of standing up to the Illuminati, to the New World Order, ways that it can be done, aside from just not being afraid. Also in the news, let's keep our eyes open to the global finance picture. Not sure what's going on with Greece, with Spain, with the euro in general. Things are kind of weird. But here in the U.S., we have the resignation announced of the SEC chairman. Now, this is kind of a misnomer because the chairman is a woman, but they still call Mary Shapiro the Securities Exchange Commission chairman. And this is the body that is supposed to regulate Wall Street. So now the chairman of the body that regulates Wall Street is resigning. Who replaces this person is the first question I have to ask. Okay, somebody's going out. Here's an opportunity for something good to happen, for some real change. Let's do something different. Let's look at the current situation. She's a Wall Street insider. She was appointed by Obama. Tell you what, let's look at the incoming person. The incoming person is also a woman, also named Mary. Her name's Mary Miller. But we're talking about a woman who is formerly with T. Rowe Price. She's a banking insider. Now, bear in mind, the SEC is the body that regulates Wall Street, that regulates the exchange, the NASDAQ and all the different stocks and bonds trading. So we've got banker insiders regulating the banks still. And it looks like the incoming person will be of the same ilk. So not much change there. So eyes open. This person, she is currently working in the Treasury Department, which is run by Timothy Geithner, the former head of the New York Fed Central Bank. Big old banksters. Still going to call her chairman, even though she's a woman. We couldn't change some stuff and get some gender equality going. We couldn't get a non-banking insider in the SEC and get with the times. But there is a change. I guess there's opportunity for positive change, even still. But I just ask you guys, keep your eyes open on that stuff and don't just be fooled. Okay, so what's up with Israel now that they've decided to stop killing people indiscriminately? Well, we've got somebody else leaving here. Their defense minister. This whole operation, Pillar of Cloud, whatever it was that they perpetrated on Gaza in recent weeks. It was a defense, quote-unquote, defense operation. Well, their defense minister is a guy by the name of Ehud Barak. He has announced that he's going to be leaving politics. This may actually not be a really good thing, because it really looks like Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the top bastard of them all, he's a killer, guys. He's not a nice guy. He looks like, he's used this to get, the conservative hardliners in in Israel to reelect him yet again. It's not the first time he's used an operation against Palestinians to win an election. Those people died so that he could win his office again, basically, is what's happened. And Ehud Barak was a kind of lone voice of reason. He was a moderate. He even suggested having Israel leave the West Bank, which, the conservatives, the Netanyahu bunch, are not going to have that. So who's going to replace him as defense minister? That's something we need to keep an eye on, to keep tabs on what's going on with the whole Israel-Palestinian situation. And let's be honest with ourselves. There's never going to be a one-state solution. We have to have a two-state solution, and Israel just needs to cough up the land if they want to have peace. But they don't want to have peace. They want it all. They want all the land, and they want to go in and mow the grass and eliminate the Palestinians. Like the Israelis are the new Germans, and the Palestinians are the new Jews. That's what they're doing. I mean, I'm calling it like I see it. Tell me you can't look at that situation and say the same thing. All right. Disclosure news. Big D disclosure news. Also a governmental change. Japan has a new prime minister who's incoming, and it looks like his first lady took a ride to Venus, or so she says. Publicly, she's willing to say that, and apparently this is in a book that she wrote years ago, but, she holds to her story, that while she was asleep, and those who, listen to the show regularly know that we believe that, our spirit does things when we're asleep that are real, in dimensions that are real, and the things that happen to us are just as real, or maybe more real, than the illusion that we live in during our waking lives. So during her sleep, she believes she rode in a triangular UFO to Venus. And she says that it was very beautiful and it was really green. Well, we know that Venus isn't green. Not in the third dimension. We know it's hot and barren, and as far as we think of life, it would be impossible for anything to live there. Well, those of us who follow Edgar Cayce or the law of one material know that Ra is a social memory complex that spent its third density, like we are currently in our third density, spent that on Venus, and they are from Venus. Well, we also know that in other densities, in other dimensions, things are not as they appear to be here. So, the fifth dimensional Earth, which is in probability at this point, does not look the same as the Earth that we inhabit right now. And so, if you are asleep, you're at least in the fourth dimension, and if you're, with extraterrestrial advanced civilization beings, chances are that they're taking you beyond. And so we're talking about a trip in an interdimensional trip to a different dimension of Venus that apparently is nice, and she is publicly saying this. She will cop to it publicly, and her husband still gets to be Prime Minister of Japan. This is real. So I take a lot of encouragement from this. Here we are, December 2012, and I'm going to take everything I can get, and I'm going to give it to you guys too. So take this story, take it to heart, and really think about the implications that the wife of a head of state in a political democracy is getting away with saying that she took a trip to Venus in a UFO. This is real. What about chemtrails? There was a conference recently that's called the Consciousness Beyond Contrails Conference, and I know that our friend Laura Eisenhower was there, but I also know that meteorologist Scott Stevens, who is the sole meteorologist, TV weather person, who's had the balls to admit that chemtrails are real. Well, he gave a very, very good presentation. I've known about him through the work of Michael J. Murphy and his films, What in the World Are They Spraying and Why in the World Are They Spraying? And, we are very thankful for Michael Murphy and his film work, but we are also very thankful for meteorologist Scott Stevens for having the balls to basically give up his weather guy gig and stand up to say, hey, this is going on. You guys might want to pay attention to it. So, December 4th, that week, and I believe that's next week's show, Scott Stevens is going to be on, and we're going to talk to him about his trip into the craziness that is chemtrails. He's going to talk about how he, figured out what was going on and how he still observes them to figure out what it is they're doing, why they're doing it, and what the chemtrails are accomplishing. And it's not all a one-sided thing. There are multiple purposes that he's been able to determine. And we're talking about somebody who has a meteorological degree. We're talking about somebody who's steeped in the science of the way that liquids work, and the way that air works, and the way the atmosphere works, and how clouds should behave in certain situations, and how they misbehave in connection with chemtrails. So we are going to have a very enlightening, educational, and uplifting week next week, and I hope that you guys will listen in to that. What else do we have in the news? We have a crop circle. Oh, check it out. This wouldn't be Scott Stevens, would it? Hello, 719? Who do I have?
Oh, you have me, Tim. It's Patrick.
Patrick, what's up, buddy?
Just listening. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. Did you have a comment? Did you have a question? Bring it, bro.
Oh, they're still hitting California with chemtrails.
Oh, I believe that. Well,
yeah.
It's all over, and that's one of the things. Watching this conference that he put on, I believe it was within the past few days. He was showing video from just recent days, from just the last month even. And so, yeah, we've all seen them. We still see that they're going on. And one of the most interesting things about what he showed was not just low-level planes, spraying what appear to be, persistent contrails at altitudes where ice wouldn't even freeze, and
right.
Obviously aren't ice. But it was a surprise to him and a bigger surprise to me in that the first plane that he showed was a prop plane. Now, you tell me how a prop plane is supposed to leave a contrail. And this is a new thing they're doing, because maybe they run out of cash, or maybe they need to expand a certain way. You can ask yourself questions about why, and I intend to ask Scott why he thinks they're moving to using this sort of craft in addition to
who knows,
the upper level atmosphere craft. But the fact that there's a prop plane making a drone, a noise as it passes overhead, it can only go so high, and it doesn't have a jet engine to create a contrail, and it's not high enough to create a contrail. It's a freaking prop plane leaving a trail. So, people, wake the fuck up. And seriously, how are you gonna deny that something's going on when you got a freaking prop plane passing overhead, leaving a contrail?
Well, it's cognitive dissonance 101. I mean, literally, we could have worldwide mass landings, and people would still deny it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? A lot of people's consciousness it's kind of like a bear sleeping, and your radio show and people that you can call them light workers or whatever, they kind of poke that consciousness, that bear, with a stick, and usually they just go back to sleep. So that's why I used to really focus on waking people up, and instead I've sort of switched gears and have just been working on myself, because through unity, every human being and life is connected, and if you're healing yourself, you're working on everybody.
That is so true. That's an excellent way to look at it. I mean, I would still, I would apply the two-prong approach. Go ahead and work on yourself, and keep poking people every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Let's look at it this way. Out of every 100 that you poke, you might get one or two, and then think of the exponential nature of that unity that you just talked about. So, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, keep that up. That's awesome. So, did you hear about this crop circle in Australia?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that was what I was wanting to get to next. I've never personally heard of a crop circle in the land of Oz, but there has been recently. I subscribe to a channel that updates the latest crop circles when there are images to bring in, and so they don't get a lot of views, and I don't think a lot of people know about them. So one of the things I want to do is, that's out of the ordinary. We got crop circles in England all the time. Okay, yeah, the U.S. every once in a while, but Australia, I've never heard of it. So I just want people to be aware that, okay, so that happened, and here we are, December 2012. I think we just got to be eyes open, and it's also probably the best time to keep working on yourself, working on our own spirituality, our own readiness for enlightenment, however somebody wants to look at it.
Yeah, and there's no one right path. Whatever anybody is doing for themselves is probably what they should be doing. Yeah,
as many paths as there are people.
Right. I mean, we're all here to learn, and I don't think there's just one way.
Also in the news, free energy. This is one of those things that I'm always harping on. because it is my firm belief that if the technologies that humans have developed in the last century were allowed to come forth, it would change life for everyone on this planet. It would make life better for everyone. We'd be able to use it to make life affordable, to make life abundant. Nobody would have need, and if you don't have need, you don't have
control.
Evil. You don't have evil. You don't. If people, let's think about the source of evil. It's I don't have this, you have it, I'm going to take it. That's like, to me, the source of it. So if
Michael
I don't
Tellinger, Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
Michael Tellinger, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He has this great philosophy, and he's from South Africa, and he's coming together with this party called Ubuntu, which is contributionism, where they eradicate money, which eradicates the need for stuff, and everybody in the community, local, like sort of tribes, you could call them cities or whatever, but they all do their part, whatever their God-given talent is or skills that they've acquired, and contribute to the whole, not the world, just their society, because it's hard to do things on a global scale in a small community.
Start small.
But, if Jason Brevelli's got that awesome, suppressed technology information, he has people that can build crazy technology. This stuff is out there for people to start, building themselves. And if you have the time and the means to do so, absolutely do it. And, you start these small little, all it takes is one sort of blueprint to start one community like that, and it just will blow up, and you no longer will need money. Places that aren't able to grow crops as well, if there's free energy, you can grow them inside, even in the winter.
Well, yeah, you know what? If we don't need oil, then what do we do with all the oil pipelines? Well, hell, let's just send water around. I mean, really, if we thought about it, and if we as a civilization decided to do something, I mean, hell, if we can send a man to the moon in 5 years, we can figure out how to irrigate the fucking desert.
Right.
We just have to decide that that's what we want to do.
Or grow crops in areas that never, you would never have thought could grow crops. Especially if you're using magnetic resonance, you can grow crops at like time-lapse speed. Oh
yeah, if we used the information that is being suppressed about pyramid technology, putting if you read David Wilcock's The Source Field, you learn about
I've got it.
These Russian. Have you got it? Have you read the bit about the pyramids and the Russian scientists and their experiments with seeds and with prisoners and just about
amazing.
anything you put inside, it just gets better.
Right.
And
I mean, look at the pyramids all over the world. They're built there for a reason.
They were definitely put there for reasons, and they being plural and all over the place.
Right.
So if we would just acknowledge that there's something real to it and find out how to use it for the betterment of all mankind, well, guess what? Mankind would be better. But, how can somebody make a buck off it and then keep everybody else from doing it? How can I copyright it?
Yeah, that all comes with the whole capitalism and the society we live in right now, But, I mean, you have listeners that are aware. You're aware of this. I don't think it needs to be a global thing right away. I think just enough people have to be fed up with the system, and we're getting to it.
You're right. You're right. If we can have communities, even one that stands as a case in point, that stands as an example that can be shown, and maybe you make a documentary. Look what these people did, and it just encourages others, and then it pops up like wildfire and can't be stopped. I think you're right.
I mean, look at the Thrive movement, and one of those groups, if they really had the resources and could do it, then that's a social network bomb. It's the blueprint for everything you need to create a system outside of, because don't play their game. Like the whole thing with protesting, rioting, even petitions. It's kind of playing their game, and I think it's okay to spread awareness, but what we're talking about doesn't involve that line of thinking and that, that sort of system.
It sounds to me like what you're talking about is just getting together and doing it for ourselves. We don't need them. All we need is each other.
Right.
And if we have each other, then what do we need them for?
I mean, because, you have listeners from all over different walks of life. And combine other radio show hosts or other, we have people that are have engineering backgrounds, have biology backgrounds, you name it. We have people that have the skills, that have the know-how. We aren't connected. And so it makes us feel isolated and alone.
It's funny. I will sometimes watch the Bill Maher show. I used to be a really big fan, not as much these days because it's just so bullshit, two-party, political. It's all the facade. It's all the illusion. And a lot of the beliefs, the strongly held beliefs on, no matter who's on the show, Bill himself included, they're all based in fallacies and lies. But one of the things that was said this last week, he had Republican David Frum on, and they were talking about the Tea Party. Well, they said, historically, America's always had its crackpots. Every community's had its crackpots. The thing is, with the internet, now they find each other, and so now we have the Tea Party, which is a funny joke, and it is at the same time true. Now, I would ask you to take out the word crackpot and institute the word, light worker or whatever, one of us.
Or genius, people that think outside the box.
Yeah, and now with the internet, these people may have existed with their tiny little light, locked in a house in some, far-flung place, but now they can find each other through the internet, and now, things are really starting to pop. So, yeah, man, I like talking to you because you've got that hope, and I love it. We need more of that.
It's just a firm feeling, I'm actually not that optimistic about life in general, but but I do believe in people, and what's perpetuated is usually just shit. What's perpetuated is just dark ecstasy, dark stuff. But really, most people you meet, they're at varying degrees of consciousness, but they're not usually mean, and if they are, they've been wounded or hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a survival thing.
So people are okay. We're an okay breed, We've just got some work to do.
And imagine what we could be without need.
Right.
And to that end, Sterling Allen is a guy who is kind of a free energy pioneer. He runs the PES. He's part of the New Energy Movement, part of the New Energy Congress with Joel Garbin, one of the founders and one of the people who's been willing to stick his head up and talk about these things all these years. And he's still putting out information and running around the world and checking out new technologies and reporting on them. And one of the technologies is from a company called Stern, S-T-O-E-R-N. And he just released an article in the last couple of days about how they've done a couple of they'll show off their work, and it just won't go off right, and then people laugh at them, and so basically they've been kind of a laughing stock, and people stop paying attention to them. But his big deal now is that Stern is not dead. In fact, though they've kind of gone quiet, they've got exclusive contracts with the two largest electric hot water heater companies in the world. This is real. He's been able to see the contracts, though he won't release the names of the companies. One's an American company that every American would recognize, he says. So I'm guessing we're talking Maytag, Whirlpool, GE, something like that, and then some European company as well. These two contracts each provide 25 million euro a year to Stern. And that is prior to the royalties that come out of sales. And the sales are coming. They are going to release a hot water heater that will cost about the same as the heater it replaces, but will be about a third of the size and consume only a fifth of the electricity. And that's just for starters. As good as this news is about Stern, and I'm going to quote this from Sterling Allen. As good as this news is of Stern, it has one huge downside. The technology won't be arriving in the marketplace for 18 to 36 months. We need this stuff now. We need the productive capacity that this can provide in new jobs, lower energy bills, distributed energy, independence from the grid. We need to stick it to the man, assert our independence, and say no to the New World Order that is intentionally crashing the economies of the world to turn us all into slaves to a centralized system. What we need is an open-source technology that is easy enough, cheap enough, and has enough practical power output to spread around the world in a short period of time. We also need a spiritual awakening to accompany the emergence of such a technology. I believe I've found such a technology, and it will not only arrive much sooner than 18 months, but it may just render some of what Stern is doing a little obsolete. But it's hard to surpass going straight to the big-time players. So, according to Sterling Allen, he's on the tip of some other technology that's going to be coming sooner than 18 months. So we're talking a year and a half from now, at the latest. So over the next year, I'm going to guess some technology that will be open source, easy and cheap to replicate and spread around the world and get people off the grid, tell the New World Order to shove it up their ass, stick it to the man, assert our independence. The same thing we've been talking about all night. So
right. Yeah, that'd
there's
be great.
some hope for you.
That'd be great. Instead of having these like hybrid devices like hybrid cars, which don't do anything.
Yeah. or the answer, the next generation, hydrogen, electric. No, that's not when we know that we could have anti-gravity. I mean, seriously,
right.
Come on.
Right, or at least, do what Nikola Tesla did and convert the car to not run on oil or gas,
right.
And just drive around with these little antennas that are picking up the Earth's, sound frequency.
Yeah, the ambient energy. I mean,
right.
the technologies are there, and the black ops community has had it, has withheld it. I mean, if we
use it.
Yeah, they use it. Yeah, of course they use it. And if we could just get that to everybody, to everyday use, well, everybody's bills would get a lot less lower. Everybody's lives would get a lot easier, a lot safer. And, the oil companies wouldn't be able to, and the banks wouldn't be able to tell us what to do and how the world is going to go. So, I mean, it's the tipping point. That is the tipping point. That's what we need. If we could just have that, then it's all said and done. It's basically, it's just the ride at that point, and all we have to do is strap in and enjoy it.
Right, and I think it more reaffirms that, we got to be putting this out there, making it. We can't wait around for daddy government or somebody to do it for us, because they won't.
No, and Joel Garbin, I talked with Joel Garbin a few weeks ago, and he says, one, the suppression of the technology is getting relaxed. And two, there's reason to be hopeful that these technologies are going to be out in front of us soonish. So you're right. We need it. We need to get out there. We don't need to wait. And as soon as, every day I have a paper that comes out called the New Energy Report, and it automatically populates with stories from around the web about this stuff. So I can keep, between that and Sterling Allen's Free Energy newsletter, I can keep pretty good tabs on what is happening, and I'm here to tell you that there are people who are hungry and who are constantly dicking with magnets and all sorts of things to try to replicate these technologies and spread them around, how to make it yourself through YouTube. And right. So what you're talking about, people taking it into their own hands, it's happening. People are trying.
It's happening. I know it is.
And once once it really catches on, look out. Look out, power companies. I feel bad for I drive by. Who was it? Was it Johnny Cash or Glenn Campbell? Who had it? Somebody had a song called "Wichita Lineman." And living in Wichita, I'll drive down the street and see the electric linemen, the guys up, with Westar, the local energy company, climbing up, fixing power lines and stuff. Thinking, I feel bad for those guys because they're going to be out of work. I hope they can find something good to do with their lives.
Don't feel bad for them. You know, don't feel bad for anybody, because if you're taking that perspective, you know, this is just a small, 20 to 80, 100-year experience, and it would be sad if that's all it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's going to be plenty of new stuff for people to occupy their time with, and I'll reiterate that if we have a lot less need for money anyway, then we have a lot less need for jobs. And people who don't have jobs, you know what? They just might be all right. In fact, they might be the best off.
I mean, do you think those guys that work for that company though they really care about that? Maybe a few, but I'm sure a lot of other people are just doing it to put food on their table or have a roof over their head.
But by the time they're journeymen, they're just looking at the retirement date. But this energy technology, it's coming. It's real. It's coming. The low energy nuclear reactions, the Leonard technology, basically cold fusion, that's coming. Right. It's constantly getting improved. What happens when we actually put science to it? What happens when we look at it scientifically and actually put money into research on this stuff instead of putting money into suppressing
killing people,
and into taking away the laboratories that are actually working on this stuff? Yeah, even killing. What happens when we reverse our priorities on that? How fast will we find the next big thing? Big stuff, good stuff's coming. This is also huge. Bigfoot DNA sequenced. A team of scientists can verify that their 5-year-long DNA study, currently under peer review, confirms the existence of a novel hominin hybrid species commonly called Bigfoot or Sasquatch living in North America. Researchers' extensive DNA sequencing suggests that the legendary Sasquatch is real, is a human relative, arose approximately 15,000 years ago as a hybrid cross of modern Homo sapiens with an unknown primate species, based on the DNA. The study was conducted by a team. Sorry?
Lloyd Pye has a really interesting theory on that species.
Well, I would also say that Raw, if you read the Law of One stories, and I'm not sure if Casey talked about it all or not, but Raw talks about, and I believe Seth also talks about the Bigfoot being second density entities like our animals that are, a lot of them are folks from Maldek, the planet that used to be in our solar system, that's now the asteroid belt. They blew themselves up, and so they incarnated here and are on an evolutionary trajectory to be like us. And so, do they exist? Yeah. They apparently have a lot of times they live underground, not just in the woods, and have the ability to materialize or not materialize. I'm not sure. What does Lloyd Pye say?
Oh, that they that was kind of a species that the Anunnaki used to make us, along with mixing their DNA.
Oh.
And that basically, if humans were, if we were to have evolved naturally, we wouldn't have stuff like disease and stuff, because that gets weaned out through that long, rigorous process. And our DNA is just so totally fucked up and riddled with disease and issues. And that the hominoids are just a separate culture, and they dwell in the deep, crazy forest that a lot of our nation has, and they're just a removed group. I have to go back into it because I saw it a few years back. But
I didn't realize that Lloyd Pye did anything other than the Star Child skull.
No.
That's cool. He recently, found out that that's not only is it not a child, it's not human. Based on DNA evidence. I mean, aside from, just looking at the fact that the cranium size and the way that it's all shaped and everything is not human, and the bone itself is stronger and, has these fibers that go through it that no human bone has. But But getting off the topic, look, people, Bigfoot is real, according to some scientists in Texas, of all places. Is conducted by a team of geneticists, forensics, imaging, pathology experts, led by Dr. Melba S. Ketchum in Nacogdoches. I can never say the name of that place in Texas. And they've apparently sequenced 3 complete Sasquatch nuclear genomes and determined that the species is a human hybrid, according to the genetics. And I would just like to say that anybody who's listening to this in Wichita, if you happen to watch the news last night, you may have seen this story on the 10 o'clock, and I would like to say that I was instrumental in that happening because I happened to talk to that show's producer, and he's a Bigfoot fanatic himself, and so we got it past the censors and got it onto the news show last night. So that's a little bit of truth going out in the local market.
Good work. Keep it up.
Thanks, man. Thanks. So yeah, we've kind of run a little long here. It's been nice to have you to talk to, Patrick. But I just want to leave people feeling positive. I want to leave you guys on the up. If the fact that Bigfoot's been corroborated with DNA doesn't do it, or that the Japanese Prime Minister's wife, the First Lady of Japan, is talking about her trip to Venus in a UFO, or the coming free energy, I'm not sure what you guys need to be happy, but this ought to do it. If you go to the Facebook page, we've got, you might have to scroll down now, but there's a video there called Shocking, and just watch it. It's footage from closed circuit TVs, security cameras all over the world, of people helping people, of people just being crazy and funny and helpful and compassionate and taking risks for other people, and it will leave you feeling good. I guarantee it. You'll feel good if you go watch that video. So
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I want people to go check that out. In fact, if you're listening to this on YouTube, I'm gonna put a link to it on the YouTube in the description. So go check it out. And we're gonna end the show on that high note. So Facebook.com/extraordinaryyear. Go like us there, and follow me on Twitter at Tim Bravo. And that's going to be it for us, this little episode of Extraordinary Year, 23 days before December 21st, 2012. Now remember, keep your ear to the ground, hold on tight, kids, and
do not be afraid.
This is an extraordinary year. Peace is on its way. Namaste. Namaste, Patrick.
Thanks, Tim. Take care.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Bravo. I'll be won't make you read between the lines too many times. I'll give it to you straight. So I'll say what I feel today. Might make you uneasy, put you in a rage. It's only when we're uncomfortable that the world